Welcome to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix of 2024. Now, this weekend is the first weekend we've all season so far where we haven't actually had any announcements of anything for 2025, so a bit of a settled environment this weekend. Now, it is raining. Now, we've got some information that in spite of how heavy it looks at the moment, that this rain will back off throughout the Grand Prix. So we have a Red Bull on pole again, but this time it's Sergio Perez. So hope for him. He's only got a few points so far this season. George Russell gets his Mercedes on at the front row, and then it's Max Verstappen in third. Now, pretty much all the drivers have gone for dries, but Max has gone for mediums as opposed to the softs on most other cars, hoping it'll give him a bit better grip until it dries up. Leclerc fourth, Norris fifth, Piastri sixth. So McLaren not looking particularly strong in qualifying, but we know how they came through in Melbourne, of course. Sainz seventh, Lewis Hamilton eighth. Lancestroll is ninth on the grid, ahead of his teammate Fernando Alonso. Starting to become more obvious as to why Aston Martin have re-signed him so early, because Stroll is starting to deliver some pretty decent performances. Kevin Magnussen 11th, that's good for him and Haas. Guan Yu Zhou, best of the season, I believe, for Sauber. Hopefully that continues for them. Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo on the 7th row in the RBs. Then you have Logan Sargent ahead of Nico Hülkenberg. And then the Alpines, quite disappointed. Let's say it now. Ocon 17th, Albon 18th in the second Williams, Bottas 19th in the Sauber, and Gasly 20th in the second Alpine. So, riding with Max Verstappen, he's going to be hoping, but we know his starts haven't been great this year overall, and he's going to be hoping to get between Perez and Russell. Well, that's not going to happen. He's slow away. He's actually been bumped by the McLaren behind him. No damage to either car, and they keep going. It's so slippy at the moment. They're all on slicks, but so slippy. And Norris has put Max once again drops from third to sixth. We see it every time we're riding with him. He dropped from third. In fact, he's dropped down seventh now because Sainz has got past him as well. Alonso has got ahead of Hamilton. So there's some hope there for Fernando, clearly. But Max, look, Max is really struggling, isn't he? Really struggling to keep it online, and this is going to be a difficult race for him. He'll just have to hope that everybody will pit, as we saw in Bahrain. But no one was really on the dries. They're already on the dries. They could and probably should stay out, but I don't know with the mechanics of the game. Without actually, well, there's a yellow flag, and Lando Norris has run into the Ferrari, and it runs into Verstappen. I don't think Max has got any damage, but Lando Norris is out of the Grand Prix, and I believe Leclerc as well possibly is going to be out, or is that Sainz? I'm not sure. I think it must be Leclerc, surely, who's out of the Grand Prix there. So Norris is definitely out. We think Charles Leclerc has continued. So we keep watching Max Verstappen now. That's gained him a little bit of ground back, hasn't it? And I think he seems to be coming a little bit better when it's not all twisty in the wet, and that he's watching. That Sainz is stuck behind somebody, isn't he? Is that Perez? Perez? No, it must be Piastri. Sainz is stuck behind him, but they're all pinning the bits, and Max almost gets caught out there, nearly hits the pit wall. Well, but he stays out. How many positions is he going to gain? Max Verstappen, well, he's up into second place, so that's getting Stroll. Russell has decided not to pit, so George Russell is leading the race. Max Verstappen in the second. Lance Stroll also has not pitted, so Lance Stroll is all the way up in the third place. Well, we said that he's been slightly shading Fernando Alonso so far this season. Now he's in third place and applying pressure to Max Verstappen. Well, Max won't want to get past, and Stroll is having a look, and Max definitely will not want to get past by Lance Stroll, because it's just costing him pointless points to a guy he's not even battling for the World Championship with. But in some ways, you don't mind losing the points to someone you're not battling with, but in other ways, you need those points, and you certainly don't want to give someone who hasn't got themselves much into the hunt like Lance Stroll, you don't want to give him the petition of all people. So Max continues down, coming towards the spoon now. This race, George Russell has got this wrapped up, surely, if he doesn't have a problem. He's 13 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen. Verstappen has absolutely no pace, but just like in Bahrain, he's got up there through strategy. We saw him have a lot of pace in Saudi Arabia, and not too much in Melbourne, but yeah, he's got no pace here. He's just hanging on, but this is how you win a World Championship. On your down days, you still bring home some points. So Max Verstappen's doing it. Whoa, he's off. He's off. And, is he going to regain in front of Stroll? He does. Now, like we saw in Melbourne, if you make a mistake, you don't get a penalty for that in this universe. So Max will be allowed to hold on to second place without a penalty. George Russell wins the race. Max Verstappen finishes second, a whole 15 seconds behind. Well, Mercedes, I don't think they saw a win coming. They did, well, strong enough in Bahrain, but they haven't been very strong in the next two races. But when it's dodgy conditions and everyone's pitting, Mercedes seem to roll the strategy dice, and they seem to come off pretty well. And it's worked today, as again, with George Russell winning the Grand Prix, and Mercedes overall, certainly improving their standing in the World Championship. And in fact, George Russell will move all the way up to second in the World Championship. So here's the result then. George Russell wins for Mercedes. Max Verstappen second in the Red Bull. Third is Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. Sergio Perez finishes fourth. So that's not bad. I mean, yeah, he pitted and still got up there. I wonder if part of that was down to how much his teammate was holding everybody else up. So maybe Max wasn't struggling for pace. Well, you can see when he didn't need to hold him up, he was struggling for pace. But Max has certainly advertently or inadvertently done his teammate a favour and helped Checo get back into fourth place. Yuki Tsunoda in the RB finishes fifth. Esteban Ocon came all the way through to sixth, thanks to clever strategy from Alpine, having started 17th. Charles Leclerc, we thought he'd gone out in that collision with Lando Norris, but he didn't. He's finished seventh. He did manage to come through and claim a few points. Nico Hülkenberg 8th for Haas. Valtteri Bottas 9th for Sauber, so those are his first points of the season, and 10th for Carlos Sainz. So, yeah, double points for Ferrari, not much, but they've done that. So the World Championship, Max Verstappen is on 73 points. He's 20 ahead of George Russell, who is on 53 and up to second. In third is Charles Leclerc now on 45. Lando Norris on 43. Oscar Piastri on 42. McLaren have had a solid season so far, but today was an absolute disaster for them. Norris out early, Piastri nowhere after his pit stop. So, and he was struggling, he was under pressure before his pit stop. So yeah, McLaren, real struggles here. In sixth in the World Championship is Lance Stroll. He's on 31 points now, so he's doing a great job. Still ahead of Sergio Perez, who is on 27 points. Lewis Hamilton on 24. Very anonymous race from him today. And yeah, Mercedes split their strategies, and Lewis, having already been struggling, then was on the wrong side of the split as well. So yeah, 13th in the race in the end for him. Yuki Tsunoda on 21, so he's having a decent, tidy season. Fernando Alonso on 11. It's been a bit of a struggle for him in the recent races. He's really going to hope to be able to claw that back. But first of all, he's got to get put some manners on his teammate and start beating him again. Nico Hülkenberg's then on 10. Esteban Ocon on 8. Daniel Ricciardo on 6. Kevin Magnussen 4. Pierre Gasly 2. Valtteri Bottas 2. Guan Yu Zhou 1. And Carlos Sainz finally gets a point on the board, but it's only for 10th place. So his difficult season continues, but at least his name's on the board now. I think basically everybody has scored points except the Williams so far this season, I believe. Constructors' Championship then. Red Bull lead it on 100 points. McLaren on 85. Mercedes 77. Ferrari 46. Aston Martin 42. So they're starting to apply a bit of pressure to Ferrari there. RB on 27. Haas on 14. Alpine on 10. Sauber on 3. And Williams, the only team yet to score. I think, if I can see rightly, all drivers from other teams have scored, I believe. Yeah, I think so. So, yeah, so interesting race. Max Verstappen not really with any sort of pace, but when you're Max Verstappen, you find a way, and he did. He still managed to get into the second place. Can Mercedes challenge? It's difficult to say because this season varies with every Grand Prix, but it's a case of we've just got to keep watching it and see what happens, I think. But certainly George is the closest to Max at the minute. He's 20 points behind him. So, well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Keep in touch with what's going on this channel. And, yeah, thank you for coming to watch.